Well, I want to ask, why aren't the unvaccinated dying? Yeah, I know, a little bit loaded, but it's worth asking. In the last 6 months, 94% of Canadians didn't bother getting COVID-19 boosters. Now, remember, we've been told over and over, we have to get these boosters every 6 months or this is coming back. Well, only 6% of Canadians have bothered to do that. Now, with a campaign of coercion using fear, economic duress, and social ostracization, Canada did manage to twist the arms of Canadians hard enough to get 80% of the population to get 2 doses of the vaccine. The number of people taking part, though, in the lifetime of booster shots recommended by many medical experts who often coincidentally are in the pharmaceutical industry is dropped pretty dramatically. Now, in response to this, we're starting to see a push again from authorities to try and coax the citizens into getting yet another injection this fall. With hindsight, we've learned that the vaccinations, at least, they may reduce symptoms, but they did nothing to prevent the spread of COVID-19, though we were told by many medical experts and politicians it would. The entire basis of locking unvaccinated people from business establishments, schools, social gatherings, and travel was on the false premise that vaccine prevents transmission. Another thing we know now, too, is while COVID-19 is a serious virus, it presents little serious risk to young, healthy people. Children are virtually immune to COVID-19, and adults rarely experience anything worse than flu-like symptoms from the virus if they feel any symptoms whatsoever, unless, of course, they had a few comorbidities, which includes advanced age. There was never a need to coerce young, healthy people into vaccinations and boosters, and there still isn't now, unless you're in the business of selling vaccines, of course. This isn't opinion. This is just medical and statistical reality. When it was found that people weren't cooperating and getting boosters every 6 months, as they were told, the fear campaign was ramped up, though. We were told COVID-19's always going to be with us, and if we don't all get boosters, hospitals will surely be overwhelmed, and the bodies will pile up in the seats as the virus would resurge. Well, the resurgence of COVID-19 never happened, and it won't. Vulnerable people have been vaccinated, probably a good idea. And despite the dire warnings from the experts, the unvaccinated haven't been decimated by the infection. I know most of us just want to leave the pandemic experience and misery in the rearview mirror. It dominated our lives for years, and we just don't want to relive it. Like it or not, though, we can't let the doomsaying henny pennies off the hook for what they did to us all. These panic-pushing patsies haven't given up, and they'll come out of the woodwork to demand lockdowns and mandated masking at the first sign of an increase in COVID-19 levels or the emergence of any new virus. They thrive on fear, and authoritarians at all levels of government love to indulge those fears with legislation targeting the freedoms of citizens. The panic-pouring pushers were dead wrong. We can't forget that, and we can't let our elected officials forget that. If we let the memory of how badly we were treated by a state in panic over a virus fade, we're inviting another similar event to happen. The government's changed the information it shares on the booster status of Canadians now, actually, to only include the last 6 months. Now, why is that? It's our information, isn't it? What purpose is being served in hiding that information from our own citizens? The reason, of course, is they don't want us to know just how dismal their own numbers are. They don't want people to see just how few citizens are falling for the lifetime of boosters recommendation. Again, guys, 6%, that's nothing to brag about. If indeed those things were preventing things, we should be overrun by infections. With the information being limited to just the last 6 months, though, the picture's still pretty bleak, right? The number puts lie to the case of fear still being made as we're pushed to get an injection twice a year. If the boosters save lives, why is the lack of uptake, why isn't it killing us? COVID-19 is still around. The virus is endemic, and it's still seriously harming vulnerable people with comorbidities. It's still infecting healthy people, though they often don't even feel the symptoms if it's just a flu. If the motivation for pushing boosters on citizens isn't based on health, though, must be financial. What better market could a drug manufacturer possibly hope for than a populace coerced by a government into taking your product? But the coercion is failing, and people aren't getting more jabs. That's great news. Don't think for a second, though, that those invested in pushing mass COVID-19 vaccinations have given up. They're lobbying governments, they're influencing the press, and they're just waiting for the next chance to try and whip up a profitable panic over a potential pandemic. We have to remain on guard. The pandemic experience and its associated lockdowns isn't finished. The last few years have just been the opening chapter of that book. So again, guys, hindsight's good for nothing if we don't make use of it. So let's not forget these things, and let's keep watching those numbers. It's important.